Hello, hello, hello. It is Dr. Pam, and we are back for another snippet. If you've watched my videos in the past, I have like these hour and a half sessions, but I'm really trying to break it down into smaller pieces. If you tutor or coach with us, we do suggest that you break it down. You do 90 days of studying, 3 hours a day. Like, what? Okay, but the goal is that so today I'm going to be talking about Pavlov and his operant conditioning. The goal is that we would that first of all we would study. Sorry, so today in the morning after I go this video, if you're an auditory processor, you will listen to it an hour in the morning, same video an hour in the afternoon, same video an hour at night. Okay. If you are kinesthetic and you like to write and touch, then you'll probably take this video, make notes off this video, and the same thing 3 times a day. But the goal is to keep it small. So as I go through these videos, and I'm gonna call them snippets, shorts, I don't know. But the goal is just to break it down in very, very small pieces. There's a lot of information on all the tests. It's everything that you should have learned in 6 years, right? So we're really trying to make sure that you understand it. It's not a memorization test. It really is having some knowledge. When we look at the test, we're looking at, yes, I have to know content, but how do I apply it? So let's talk a little bit about conditioning. So I started off, well, you might see it in one of my other videos, right? I talked about operant conditioning. Of course, that is Skinner, and he talked about operant conditioning, right? Those negative rewards and consequences, things like that. If you have not seen that video yet, be sure that you search for it. It is under our channel. So it is Academic Coaching for World Changers, and I'll put a link below so you can actually head to our website and see any of our videos. Okay, so here's how it works. Okay, so I'm going to give you the hard part maybe, and then some easy parts. I don't know. Before conditioning. Okay, so in the stage, the unconditioned stimuli become produces an unconditioned response in an organism, a person. Basic terms, this means the stimulus in the environment has produced a behavior response which is unlearned, it'll be conditioned later, and therefore a natural response which has not been taught. In this respect, no new behavior is learned yet. And the example that he gives, a stomach virus, that is my unconditioned stimulus, would produce a response of nausea, which is an unconditioned response. In another example, unconditioned stimulus would create a response of happiness or desire. So most of my clients that I coach can read, right? So they understand this. I just want to break it down in little smaller pieces and maybe in some plain English. So my body, what I'm looking for is the respondent. My body is the respondent. The things that my body does, that's the respondent. So the dog or Pavlov, dogs salivate anyway. He didn't make the dog salivate, right? He just paired the two things together. So, for example, let's see here. Oh wow, the my children, my husband died in the hospital many years ago, and before we could drive by a hospital all the time. My kids didn't think anything about it, right? Unconditioned, right? There's a hospital, great. Hey, unconditioned stimuli. This is what in the environment, right? This is my unconditioned stimuli. My children, all of us have had some anxiety, right? We've had some fear, some uncertainty. Those are feelings. So those are innate. We were born with those feelings. So that's the response. That's what my body is going to do. Upset, cry, feel scared, anything that a normally body function. However, when I have, in the in this scenario, no, nothing has been paired. It hasn't been paired yet. Okay, so it's unconditioned. So, for example, many of you have some test anxiety. You've always had anxiety, right? The test did not create anxiety. You have paired the two. So, the unconditioned response, my body. That is the UR or the UCR. The stimuli is the thing. In this case, perhaps it's the test. So what we're looking at is how we pair those two things. Okay? So when we have to pair them, this is what happens. During this stage, a stimulus which produces no response, neutral, is associated with the unconditioned stimuli, at which point it becomes known as the conditioned stimuli. What? That's the pairing process. Okay. So again, going back to the hospital. So if you have, let's do the test again. So if you've taken the test, and especially if you've taken the test more than once, and I know a lot of my clients have. So what we look at is, so let's say that again, I already have anxiety. I already have anxiety, right? Oh gosh, I do. I was probably born with it. GAD, free floating for 6 months. So I've already got some stuff. So unconditioned, I go to take the test, right? So when I go to take the test, I walk in and it's like, okay, no big deal. It's a test. No big deal. So you are here, right? And you go and you open the door, right, to the testing room. No big deal. Right? You haven't paired anything. So you go, right? Take the test. You open the door. We're good, right? You fail the test. Whew, right? Okay, now imagine I've done it again, right? I studied. Oh my gosh, I've studied, right? Anxiety is built up, right? This test I failed last time, so I've got some anxiety regarding this test. So I go to the test room. I'm a little worried, got some anxiety. And then what happens is I open the test door and I feel a little anxious. Ooh, now that test door is, uh, it was neutral before, it didn't mean anything, but now I'm like, "Ooh, I'm feeling something here." Okay? And what if I fail again? If this is you, no worries. I always say, at least you're not Kim Kardashian, where when she didn't pass the bar, everybody in the world knew. So at least if you when you don't pass, only you know and whoever you choose to tell. Okay. So then the goal is over time, those two things become paired. Okay. So what I say to a lot of my clients now is you might need to switch locations. You might need to do something different because every time you begin to study, you pull up to the office to take the test, that anxiety, you've paired those two things together. Right? I got to walk in the store. I got to show them my ID. They want my palm print. Oh my gosh, what do I do? What do I do? And you can feel the anxiety going up. Okay. So I've paired those things together. Now they are called conditioned. So conditioned stimuli is, the door now has been conditioned, and the conditioned response is my body. That's the anxiety. So I'm going to the test store. I'm studying. I'm getting so ready, right? I'm good. While I'm studying, I feel the anxiety coming up. Maybe I'm really worried about the test. I can't fail this test again, right? I just can't. I can't. So now we have paired your body. So that is the anxiety. That is your respondent, right? Your body. So now it's a CR. It's conditioned. It's conditioned to the unconditioned stimuli, right? Which was the test. It didn't mean anything before, right? You've seen your friends take the test, you heard about it, but it didn't mean that much until now I've paired these two things together. So the conditioned response is my body. The conditioned stimuli is whatever I have paired with that. Okay. A couple examples of this goes, for example, a person, conditioned stimuli, who has been associated with nice perfume, unconditioned stimuli is now found attractive. Whoa. Okay, so the conditioned person has been associated with nice perfume. So that means I am conditioned that when I smell that perfume, I'm like, oh, hey, he smells really good, right? Okay, so the unconditioned stimuli, okay, is now found attractive. It becomes conditioned. Also, chocolate, right, has become conditioned with a person when eaten by a person who was sick with the virus. So now the unconditioned stimuli produces a response of nausea. Okay, same thing that I said. So again, for example, maybe another example. I think I mentioned I started off earlier with my children. Okay, so again, dad was in the hospital. Dad was in the hospital a lot of times during their life. Dad would always come home. We got sick, he'd come home. Right, we're good. The kids are really kind of used to getting off at they sometimes even rode the bus to the hospital, doing homework at the hospital. It really just wasn't a big deal, right? This wasn't a big deal. So, there was no anxiety, there's no nothing. It's the fact dad's in the hospital. Hey, we're going to go do our homework here and go home later. So then, now their dad passed away in the hospital. So now it's conditioned, right? Wow. So now, whenever we drive by a hospital, or that, so sorry, that hospital in general, or that hospital in general, my kids become sad or anxious, right? So now they have conditioned. So it's their response, the way their body feels, is conditioned to the hospital. Okay. Again, because over and over again, I have paired those two things together. So that's where we're at now. So, one of the things that you might also see is then generalizing it. So then, not only are my children upset about that hospital, some of them don't want to go to any hospital, right? They don't want to go to the hospital. I mean, they're all old enough cognitively to understand the hospital doesn't kill you. They know that. It's just the anxiety it brings. Like, oh my gosh. My youngest one, especially, she doesn't even want to go to the doctor because that's always been just an unpleasant place going with her dad when she was little. Okay. So those are conditioned, they're conditioned response, conditioned stimuli, and now they have generalized it, right? So they have not just conditioned with this hospital, they've conditioned it with all hospitals. Okay. A lot of times that's where our phobias come from. So let's say that I'm afraid of spiders, right? Oh my gosh, I can't get a spiders, spiders, spiders. So the behavioral task you'll see is flooding, right? That's putting you in a room full of spiders and just letting you go at it. The other one, of course, is by Joseph Wolpe. That is unconditioned. I'm sorry. Ooh, that is desensitization, systematic desensitization. We're doing it slowly, 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 right? Okay. And the other one is implosion. Implosion is the same as flooding, but it's just in your mind. So the therapist might say, close your eyes and pretend you're in a room full of spiders, right? Okay. And those of you that are afraid of spiders, I'm so sorry I use that example. You can just fast forward this part. But so the phobias many times are related to something. So maybe when I was a little kid, I got bit by a spider, or I walked in and I saw a room full of spiders, right? So in the beginning, it was not conditioned. I saw some spiders, right? And then I had this feeling, oh my gosh, I don't like these spiders. I don't like that. They're not really conditioned yet. Okay. If it happens again and again, like, oh my gosh, look at these spiders in my bed, especially if you live in the country, right? You have spiders everywhere. It's not a big deal. But you've paired those two things. So now you are afraid of spiders. You have paired fear with spiders. You had fear before, right? The spiders didn't create the fear. You've always had fear, but you've paired those two together. So that's where we believe some of our phobias come from because you have paired two things together. Okay. So go over it again. In the beginning, the unconditioned stimuli, that's the environment, that's the thing, right? The test, the hospital, right? It's unconditioned. Unconditioned response, what my body does, the you are, right? Okay. Yes, I have anger. Yes, I have fear. But they aren't related to any specific event. No, right? So then, but after a while, if I keep doing the same thing, right, I become conditioned. And if every time I see a spider, I freak out, I have now conditioned. So those things are now the conditioned stimuli is the spider, and the conditioned response is my body. Again, the spider didn't create the fear. I've just paired those two things together. So now they are conditioned. We're all very conditioned. I used to tell a story. My children, they like to travel, so they're always outside the country. So if I got a phone call at 2 a.m. from my son, you know what? Usually he was on the other side of the world. So 2 a.m. was 2 p.m. and he was finding in the afternoon. I hear the phone. It did say, Daryl Turner is calling. I'm like, oh, let me just think, right? That's just it didn't mean anything. He called. On the other hand, at 2 a.m., if I get a call and it says my daughter, I'm freaking out because she lives in the same time zone I do. So if it's 2 a.m., I hear that phone with her name and my heart, like my anxiety goes up, right? So we all do it. We've all paired things. So again, the goal is to use this terminology every day. What you're looking for on the test is stuff that you already do, just putting the verbiage to it. Okay. So classical conditioning, of course, that's Pavlov. And so he's known for his bells. Okay. And what he did is he paired the two things together. Okay. This is Watson, and we're not gonna, he's not on the test, but this is the story of baby Albert. So what happened when uh, Pavlov said, "Hey, I can condition these animals." Then little Albert, right? John Watson said, "Well, hey, I can do this on people. Let's check it out." So the his assistant, one of his assistants, said, "Hey, here, take my baby." Right? So, what happened is, in the beginning, the baby wasn't afraid of anything. Little Albert wasn't afraid. He saw white fuzzy things. He would touch them, play with them. Large fuzzy things, cats, dogs, a horse. I think in one of the examples didn't mean anything. Didn't mean anything. So it was unconditioned, right? The stimuli, the animals, the things weren't as unconditioned. His response was not unconditioned. At this point, it was like, hey, there's an animal. No big deal. Let me check it out. So, in this process of conditioning him, what Watson would do is he would make this awful gong sound, right? Awful sound every time they brought an animal in the room. So now became conditioned, right? So every now when he saw a little bitty something, the gong sound. So when a little rabbit came in the room, he was now afraid because he had been conditioned, that fear had been conditioned. They paired those two things, right? And now I'm terrified whenever I see the rabbit. Watson also went out of the way to say that it works. That not only does it work that way, you can all you once you have paired those two things, they're paired for a long time. Okay, so he did it when he was young. So then he was 11 months old at the time. The rat and unconditioned stimuli presented together 7 times over 7 weeks, right? And they became conditioned. Okay. So then he said to the mom, "Hey, let's take the baby home. Let's see if this lasts, right?" So then, 5 days after conditioning, the conditioned response produced. Oh, never mind. That's a different story. Oh, another rat, the rat, right? Okay. So 5 days after conditioning, the conditioned response produced with the rat, it kind of went away. After 10 days, it was much less marked, but it was still evident a month later. So what he was trying to prove is once we've conditioned those two things, that they may always be conditioned. So if you have the phobias, if you have the worries or fears that you tied to, something in childhood, right? He would say you're conditioned. So little Albert is not on the test, but if you ever want to Google him, he's pretty cool. Not he's pretty cool, but John Watson. The story is research. So it really talks about little Albert, and little Albert actually died at the age of 11. Um, and not sure whether that was some mental health issues, right? Somatic disorders, or actually some physical health issues. But if you want to Google little Albert, feel free to, but he is not on the test. What we're looking for is just knowing that Skinner. I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. So we're looking at Pavlov, knowing that Pavlov is my conditioning guy, unconditioning response, right? That's what my body did in the beginning. Unconditioned stimuli, that's the event. After a while, I can pair these two things together. Okay. If you've seen some of my other videos, and if you're old enough to remember on the Clampets, Beverly Hillbillies way back when, Jethro Bodine would say, every time I hear that ding dong, there's someone at the door, right? He paired those two things. So before it didn't mean anything when you heard the ding dong, right? And then he realized every time he heard the ding dong, there was someone at the door. So he paired those two things. Hey, ding dong, someone at the door. Okay. So if you're not old enough to remember, I am sorry because it was, I think I saw it in black and white. But anyway, guys, I do thank you for spending a couple of minutes with me. And I do remind all of my clients the goal is repetition over and over and over again. What I like is to be with you when you take that test. I want you to hear my voice. I want you to pair my voice with those answers. I want you to pair those. Oh my gosh, Dr. Pam taught me this. Or the pictures, right? Oh gosh, I heard this somewhere. So we really want to make sure that with over and over and over it again. Okay, so if you're an auditory processor, most of us are somewhat auditory anyway. You know that we know the songs that we just can't stand, right? Oh my goodness, we've got kids, we've got teenagers, and they play songs that I hate, but somehow I still know the words because over and over again I've heard them, right? So the goal is, again, 90 days, 3 hours a day, no more than 1 hour at a sitting, once in the morning, once in the afternoon, and once at night. Same information, whether you watch the video, whether you make some note cards and go back, but we're going to break it down into small subject matters and really make sure we understand those clearly when it comes to it. Many of my clients probably are very aware of Pavlov, that it's called classical conditioning, but to understand that it's unconditioned and conditioned, that's the important, that's the meat part of the test. Okay. So thank you guys for hanging out with me. In the chat box below, you'll find our website. If you have any questions or anything that you would like to know, feel free to check out our website. It tells you how to reach us. Thanks a lot, guys. You can do this. You can pass this test.